combinations who gain access to powerful enchantment-based spells to enthrall and manipulate while also being tough to defeat and powerful of body. Check out my monster classes for or any of my other monster classes at mrrex.store. Playing monsters is a lot of fun, and I have added a ton of roleplay help so that you can add them to your campaign without issue, including reasons as to why these monsters might be good-natured or might have reasons to follow a non-evil party. Any purchase directly supports the channel, and of course, it's all crafted and written by me. I don't use ghostwriters or pay anyone to do these designs for me. I make them all myself to make sure that the quality is as high as possible. mrrex.store, the link is also on the video description. Thank you all so much, and now on to the video. This is the map of Faerun. Now, Faerun is one of the many continents on this planet where Dungeons & Dragons is set, but it is the main continent where 99% of the books, video games, and novels are located. Now, to understand why Baldur's Gate is so important, we need to look closely at its location, and it'll basically tell us everything that we need to know. This area right here is called the Sword Coast. Now, the reason it is named that way is because the land on the coast juts out into the sea in such a way that kinda looks like little blades. Basically, this entire coastline right here is very jagged, and what that does is it prevents ships from being able to safely dock in those areas. But further, some of these coastlines can be as tall as half a mile high, so even if you were to somehow avoid the jagged blades and then find a place to dock, it makes it so that making it up into the land is very difficult, but also constructing buildings like settlements, for example, or any kind of harbor on the coastline is just frankly impossible because there isn't enough land. And you can see that this map here portrays that with these little cliffs right here that the artist drew. And you can see that these coast cliffs basically extend for all of this coastline. Now, docking safely is also particularly important on these areas because of Swords, which is this whole area of water here, is extremely turbulent. The sea is rough, the waves are big, and storms constantly form, all of which are enormous threats to sailors. So having places to safely dock is very important. And in the case that you do end up stuck on a storm, it is always better to find a place to dock rather than to venture out and continue your travels. Now, it just so happens that there are two locations within the Sword Coast where a ship can dock. One is here in Deepwater Harbor on the bay of the great city of Waterdeep, right on the mouth of the river Deseret. Right on the mouth of the river Deseret. Right on the mouth of the river Deseret. And then the other is a few miles deep into the river Kionthar, where Baldur's Gate is located. So, as you can see, the location for both Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate makes them prime candidates to become powerhouses for ship trading, considering that they both are the only locations that sailors can go to on the mainland if they are sailing through this large section of the Sea of Swords. Okay. Now, to be fair, there is also Daggerford right here, and ships can indeed dock there. However, Daggerford never really developed harbors large enough to accommodate a lot of ships. And the river, it's also very shallow, so it can't really be accessed by particularly large ships. And so, Waterdeep instead would become the main destination for sailors that would sail this far north on the continent rather than Daggerford. But okay, so outside of this pristine and important geographical position on this map, the actual land itself, where Baldur's Gate is located, it's absolute trash. The ground itself is not particularly fertile, and the location is basically set upon a rough inclination, meaning that buildings have to be constructed to accommodate a lot of verticality in the terrain, which is not at all ideal. And to make matters worse, there is a lot of fog in the area. And we will talk a little bit more about the fog later, but the point is, there is a reason why Baldur's Gate did not quite grow as big and prosperous as Waterdeep. See, Waterdeep has a population of about 1.3 million people, while Baldur's Gate has a population of only 125,000 comparatively, so basically 10 times smaller. Now, all these people don't live in the city, of course. In fact, only a small percentage of all of these people do. These numbers just account for the area of influence around the city. So basically, it would include the people that live on the farms and the small settlements within a few miles of the city proper. But in any case, these differences matter a lot, and Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate are tremendously different cities with very different feels. Waterdeep is a city of unimaginable size, the City of Splendors, as it is called. It is the capital of fashion. It has major temples for a large roster of gods. They import machinery from the gnomes of Lantan, so they do have constructs. The magics that you can find in there are wondrous. And I mean, generally, Waterdeep sort of exudes something more of a high fantasy vibe, just based on how rich and populous it is. Baldur's Gate, on the other hand, is grimmier, it's dirtier, it's darker. It is very wealthy, but there is much stronger, wealth difference between the rich and the general inhabitants. And the thing is, there are a lot of reasons why this is the case, and it's not just because the land is bad, but to cover that, we need to go and talk a little bit about its history. See, originally, the place where Baldur's Gate is currently located used to be something of a pirate's den. The fog that has always existed on this place was used to great effect by the bandits who used to trick ships who otherwise couldn't see through the fog into going aground. The bandits would aground vessels by tricking them with lights before boarding them and then stealing their cargo. Eventually though, what started as a pirate's den, a place with some harbors, evolved into a real harbor where sailors could pay money to have their ships fixed, have their sails changed, or, hire guides or crew. For a few hundred years, the place grew and grew more until it became a small village of farmers and sailors. Then, one day, a particularly daring sailor that was born in the village decided to make the craziest voyage of its life. The guy was called Baldur, and he got together a sizable crew and then sailed all the way across the sea. Okay, so the thing about the Forgotten Realms as a planet is that it shares a fair amount of similarities with planet Earth. So if you were to see Faerûn as Europe, then Mastica over here could be considered to be kind of like the equivalent of the Americas. Overall, this entire section of lands to the west is seen as mostly unexplored territory filled with riches and the unknown. Even us, as dungeon masters, don't really know much about what's out there. Well, Baldur wanted to make an expedition to see what he could find out there on the west. And in particular, he made it all the way up here to a land called Ankarome. And when he came back, he brought a ship full of riches, stories of great and grand adventures, and of course, many legends about those mysterious lands. Much of this wealth that he brought back is said to have been buried or hidden throughout the Sword Coast, or even under the ground in what is now Baldur's Gate, but alas, a sizable chunk of this treasure was invested right onto the harbor, which again was the place where Baldur himself had grown. That was his home. So he commissioned a great wall that would protect the city using this newfound wealth. The wall was successfully constructed, and the main gate on this wall would go on to be named after Baldur, since of course he paid for it. So it would be called Baldur's Gate, which of course, as we know, would go on to become the name of the city proper over time. Now, the reason why this gate became important enough to become the name of the city was actually because the walled compound did not actually encompass the harbor itself. See, let's look at this art of Baldur's Gate where you can see it a little bit more clearly. See, the original wall, the one that was commissioned and paid for by Baldur, is this one, the one that we call the inner wall. So if you landed on this harbor with, say, your cargo back in the day, with whatever it is that you wanted to sell, either here or in some other town in the area, you would basically have to enter the walled compound before you could go anywhere else. Thing is, the farmers that would inevitably move onto this walled settlement for protection started to heavily tax any cargo that went in or out of that settlement. So for the sailors or traders or travelers calling this place the Gate started to catch on because it was kind of a big deal. It was a big tax that they had to pay. Passing by the gate mattered a lot to them. So the place got the moniker of the Gate, or Baldur's Gate, which was again the actual name of the gate. So yeah, it caught on as the de facto name for the settlement. But in any case, Baldurin would actually go on to plan yet another expedition onto this mysterious set of lands far to the west. He got himself another crew and then sailed away, but unfortunately he was never heard from again. This sailor, Baldurin, has been the source of a lot of myths and legends, not just because of the large amount of money that he allegedly hid away in many places around the Sword Coast, not just because the city is named after him, but because of how interesting the concept of his voyage ended up becoming for the people of Baldur's Gate. This, after all, is a sailing city, and so sailing into the unknown and search for adventure and wealth just really hit home with the inhabitants of this place, who saw him as an idol, as someone to be emulated. In fact, they respect him so much that they specifically get upset when people call the citizens of the city Baldurans. The demonym for these citizens is Baldurians, not Baldurans. They claim that misusing the founder's name by calling people Baldurans is just a grave disrespect. Now, this here is the coat of arms for the city, and you can see that it is a single ship with raised sails floating across still waters in front of the clear blue sky. Now, the ship, of course, represents the status of the city as a trading hub, but it also represents Baldurin, who is considered to be the spiritual founder of the city. The calm seas here signify peaceful neutrality, and the sky its promising future. Now, we will talk about its neutrality a bit later, but first, to finish up with the important historic stuff about the city, the taxes that were imposed by the gate towards the sailors back in the early days, interestingly enough, became such a burden for the sailors that something of an insurrection ended up happening. The sailors / pirates / bandits that did trading with the harbor eventually invaded and took over the city in protest of these high taxes. When this happened, the sea captains actually overthrew those rich farmers and then decided that they would rule the settlement instead, electing 4 of their eldest and most experienced to rule it. And then, in mockery of their position, they called themselves dukes, but even though originally it was supposed to be in jest, it did end up catching on, as things naturally do, and so this ended up becoming, over time, the actual form of government for the city that would grow then from this settlement. So even to this day, Baldur's Gate is ruled by 4 people who basically make all the decisions for the city, and of course, they are called the Grand Dukes. So here we have a second piece of the puzzle as to why Baldur's Gate is the way it is. The first one had to do with the land just being so awful that they basically are completely reliant on trade. The second is that they have a legacy that is built by sea captains who likely were pirates and smugglers, and of course, it was them that made the laws. They set the tempo for the culture of what would become the city. Oh, actually, we also do have a third puzzle piece here, which has to do with the walls, which you might not think are that important, but they really, really are. See, eventually, over time, a new set of walls would eventually be made to cover the harbor for protection, but then that made it so that now we had outer walls and then inner walls, and the inner walls were never taken down. So basically, you had a situation that slowly built up where the rich people of the city would move and build their manors inside of those inner walls, making beautiful gardens, constructing wide, elegant streets, and really just investing all of their money on that area. The rest of the people had to build their houses outside of those inner walls where it was cheaper, even though there was substantially less space, even though the land was even more inclined around the harbor, making construction even harder. So basically, a situation developed where the houses on what we now call the lower city are built extremely tight together and with a lot of verticality in order to obtain extra space. So the lower city is this cramped up, claustrophobic, a relatively poor section of the city, while the upper city is this elegant, opulent, expensive, fancy section of the city. Now, as you can see from a lot of these maps, the population of Baldur's Gate has exploded in such a way that the city itself just cannot contain this many people. Many of these people have actually just spilled outside of the walls into shanty towns. themselves. Now, in order to prevent the upper city from having its elegance be sullied by too many buildings or too many people within it, they basically made it so that you can only live on the upper city if you already lived in the upper city, meaning that in a lot of ways, the right to live in the upper city was basically inherited. That law alone effectively created a nobility class within Baldur's Gate, since this was a privilege that you could not simply buy with money. You effectively had to be of the right family lineage to have the privilege of living in this luxurious part of the city, though of course, the vast majority of the time, these families also happened to be extremely rich, of course. Though it is worth noting that that wasn't always the case, and there are families in there that do their best to maintain an image of prosperity that is simply not true for them. In any case, these families are called the patriarch families. Now, people are allowed to enter the upper city, of course, even if they don't live there. However, there is a curfew that happens at nightfall where the guards will expel every single person that is either not a patriarch or a servant of a patriarch, further exacerbating that feeling of exclusiveness. To make matters even worse, you have to pay a fee every single time that you enter the upper city. This effectively discourages people from just casually walking in and further spoiling the beautiful look of the wide open streets of the upper city. But a big reason for this is that it also basically prevents beggars and poor people from making their way inside, because of course they don't want them there. Further, only one gate is allowed to be used by trade and by people, which is the gate called Baldur's Gate, which is the main gate that separates the upper city from the lower city. There are 4 more gates around the inner walls, but those are made exclusively for the benefit of the patriarch, and no one else is allowed to go through them. Oh, and I should clarify, people can also freely use the Black Dragon Gate, which is the gate that leads outside of the city from the upper city. Or you can also come in through it as well, but you would have to pay the very same fee. It is also worth noting that all of these fees that you pay at the gates are erratic and always changing, which has to do a lot with the pervasive corruption of the city, which is going to be my next point. So again, so far we have 3 puzzle pieces as to why the city is the way it is. I should also mention, to clarify this, the awful sloped terrain is mostly concentrated on the lower city, but also the constant annoying fog that is pervasive on this city is also concentrated exclusively on the lower city, thanks to the fact that the lower city has a lower elevation, is of course at around sea level, whereas the upper city is actually substantially higher. But anyways, the 4th and final puzzle piece is the Flaming Fist. The Flaming Fist are the guards, the police, and the army of Baldur's Gate. But the interesting thing about them is that they are, get this, a mercenary company. Baldur's Gate has, for its police force, and as an army, a mercenary company. In exchange for allowing the Flaming Fist to have their base of operations within the city, and of course all of the privileges that may contain, the Flaming Fist sell themselves to the benefit of the city at a greatly discounted rate. But otherwise, yeah, the Flaming Fist are an independent force of almost 10,000 warriors that have full autonomy about whatever it is that they want to do. They could sell themselves to another country if they wanted to, say, to fight some war in the far north, or to protect some keep from a siege in some other land. With the only caveat that whatever it is that they choose to do, they cannot go against the interest of Baldur's Gate itself. Now, the way that they go about at least making sure that the Flaming Fist has the best interest of the city in mind, and say, not just try and destroy it or take it over, is that by tradition, the leader of the Flaming Fist always has a seat in the group of 4 Grand Dukes that rule over the city. Now, this is not a rule that literally exists, but traditionally this has always been the case. Now, it is worth noting that the Flaming Fist do not police the upper city. The upper city does have their own watch, and many wealthy families also carry their very own personal guard, but the Flaming Fist does indeed police all of the lower city and part, let's say, of the outer city, which are all of the houses and shantytowns that exist outside of the walls. For the most part, the outer city is not really policed or really guarded, and many terrible things happen out there. It is not really the safest place to be around in the city. But now, the Flaming Fist, being a mercenary company, is not completely beholden to the city, say, in the same way that a guard in Waterdeep would, or a cop in the real world. The city of Baldur's Gate itself doesn't really have much jurisdiction when it comes to individual Flaming Fist members. For that, you would have to go to the Flaming Fist organization itself, but the organization itself really only cares about one thing, and that is money. These members are not patrolling the city out of the kindness of their hearts, and for the most part, they don't have to worry about the bureaucracy of the city, so logically you do end up with an extremely corrupt police force. They are there for the money as much as a mercenary might take on a job to protect a caravan from one town to another. Ultimately, it is just about the money, and they are in it just for themselves. It also doesn't help that the Flaming Fist hires warriors primarily into their ranks. These are mostly adventurers that seek to retire or members from other armies in other countries. So you end up with a lot of blowhards, people that have spent their entire lives fighting and killing, and really not a lot of charmers or talkers. In other words, they are not hiring people that have a good aptitude for public support, or those that are good at de-escalating conflicts, or random people from the city that may feel positive about their hometown and might feel that it is their civic duty to protect it. No. Instead, they hire warriors and fighters, and warriors and fighters are what they get. So again, outside of the upper city, they have guards that are mean-spirited, corrupt as all hell, quick to lose their temper, and show a lack of care for the very same city that they are indeed supposedly meant to protect. In total, it is estimated that the Flaming Fist mercenary group has around 6,000 members, though the lore states that a bit under half of that is stationed in Baldur's Gate, while the other half would be then spread around all of the fortifications and contracts that the organization has all around the continent, which of course includes Chult, as the Flaming Fist does indeed have a big fort in the Chultan Peninsula, which you can actually visit while playing the adventure Tomb of Annihilation. But now, when we put all of these puzzle pieces together, we do end up with what I said closer at the beginning of this video. Baldur's Gate is a dirtier, grittier city than perhaps some of the ones that you might be accustomed to, such as Waterdeep, for example. Unless you're in the upper city, at which point it is everything that you may have wanted and more, but otherwise, it is a city of terrible wealth inequality, corrupt guards who are also prone to violence, and very interesting architectural layout. If you ever plan to play a grimdark style adventure, Baldur's Gate would actually do amazing at it. See, in the lower city, all of the buildings are made out of stone. There is a constant, pervasive fog that can make it very difficult to see sometimes, and people can actually get lost on the city thanks to it. There are literally guides on the city whose entire job is just to guide people from one end of the city to the other, because it can be hard to see through the fog, and again, the city is kind of a labyrinth as well. Now further, it rains all the time in Baldur's Gate, so the city can showcase a somewhat depressive feeling as one walks around its stony, wet floors through the fog. Further, because of the constant rain and the salty fog, the lore states that it is very rare to see colorful landmarks, as the ever-present damp discourages the use of banners, open shops, and the like. So, outside of the upper city, where you do have this area called the Wide, which is like a massive market, in the lower city, there are no open shops or many vendors really at all that walk around. Everything is inside. Then, to make matters worse, the damp atmosphere also creates mildew and mold, which is a severe problem on the city. And to compound to all of that, because so many people build their houses on such a small amount of land, and because the terrain itself is on erratic inclines, there are a fair amount of buildings constructed over other buildings. There are passageways that goes under small bridges or small tunnels, and the actual streets are so thin sometimes that they're only meant to fit like 2 people walking shoulder to shoulder, sometimes even less than that. All of this fomented a type of culture that actually reinforces a heavy dislike of, I don't know, fun, I guess. It's hard to put it into words because of the way the city is constructed. If you were to be drunk and obnoxious, say like in a bar, it is likely that many people would actually hear you be obnoxious since everything is just so close. But further, if a drunkard were to like vomit on the street, everyone would have to walk over it because this Dragonheim is a 5th edition campaign for characters. There is no stopping us. Hey guys, the Raid Shadow Legends campaign is still going, so if you would like to help contribute, please click the referral link below to install the game and try it out. If you do, you will help me complete the campaign, and then when we complete it, I'll start working on another massive 40-minute video for you guys as a recompense for the help. It really would mean a lot to me if we could get the campaign completed, so thank you very, very, very much. Before we get started, I do want you all to know that there will be no spoilers for Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden here. There are real spoilers out there if you know where to look, but you will not find them here. I do not know anything about the adventure, so technically I can't spoil anything. Do keep in mind though that we will be talking about the Frost Maiden, which is a character with a bit of backstory from older books, previous adventures, novels, and source books. If you want to be absolutely blind to who this character is or what the implications of her being here might be, then you probably shouldn't watch this video. Otherwise, again, know that no actual adventure spoilers will be presented here because, again, I don't know what's in the book or what is the plot of the book, but yeah, here we go. Some of you already know, but the Frost Maiden is one of many titles currently being held by Auril, Goddess of Winter. So this video is really about Auril, one of the members of the Gods of Fury, a collection of chaotic deities under the protection and rulership of Talos, God of Destruction. We'll cover that group of gods in a minute because they are important, but first, who is this Frost Maiden? According to fates and pantheons, quote, Auril is a fickle, vain, evil deity with a heart of ice who is venerated primarily out of fear. She remains untouched by any hint of true love, noble feeling, or honor. She enjoys toying with those who offend her, trapping them in snowstorms, and then driving them insane with tantalizing visions of warmth and the comforts of home before freezing them to death. Her beauty is cold and deadly, the flower of womanhood preserved forever in a slab of Arctic ice, with sensibilities to match the ice, end quote. In essence, she is the chaotic evil goddess of winter. She is typically portrayed as a beautiful blue-skinned maiden in a mantle of white. Her favorite weapon, which she always wields to combat, is a mysteriously cold ice battle axe called Ice Maiden's Caress, an incredibly powerful +3 Frostbrand battle axe. This form, however, is merely one of her two most popular avatars. It is in fact this one, the one that we call the Frost Maiden, and just how the name implies, it's supposed to be a beautiful woman of ice. Because her abilities actually do change depending on which form she takes, this is the form that would be considered her combat form. While in this Frost Maiden avatar, she's considered to be a level 27 mage, a level 20 fighter, and a level 15 cleric all in one for the purposes of spells and abilities, so very powerful. Well, in this form, she can cast all spells known as long as they are not fire-based and as long as they can hurt and harm animals and plants. If the spell has the ability to harm a plant or an animal and it's not fire, she can basically cast it. She also has the ability to cast any spell that has to do with light, except that she casts them reversed. So instead of casting the light cantrip and produce a ball of light, for example, she can instead produce a ball of darkness with that cantrip. So her power to produce darkness is actually very strong. Further, all cold spells she produces come out at triple damage and with a -3 penalties to all saving throws against resisting them. Her other form is called Ice Dawn, and it is described as, quote, a silent, blinding apparition of icy Hathor, an impassible figure in an ornate crown and hooked, spurred armor of pale, light blue ice, end quote. This form is more of a bizarre, spectral form that she uses for traveling and inspiring fear on her enemies, but it's a special form because she cannot cast spells while in it. On the flip side though, she gains some considerable powers and abilities while she is in this form. For starters, she can reflect all priest and wizard spells of 6th level or less back to their sources. Wherever she goes and whatever she passes freezes solid. Plants are automatically killed unless they're sentient, in which case they have to survive a saving throw or be put into a forced hibernation. Other living beings that come within 20 feet of this form must save or die by being frozen solid. Armor and other things made of metal become so naturally cold that they are literally painful to the touch. Water completely freezes solid, including other liquids like potions, which get completely destroyed in her presence. Metals and stone within 20 feet of her become chilled and brittle. They shatter 20% of the time if dropped or struck with an attack. Magical items or constructs are forced to also make a saving throw or literally be shattered and broken. So as you can see, even if she can't really cast spells in this form, this thing is dangerous. Auril does have a third avatar form, but it is mostly used to convey messages or to appear to a cleric of her order. So this would be the avatar that she would use if there was no danger to her person, or if she didn't mean to fight. This shape appears as an icy breath accompanied by a cold, ruthless shockling and a blue-white radiance that leaves a thin line of frost to mark her passage. People have also seen her as a blank-eyed face of frost, with long, wind-whipped white hair that radiates intense cold. If she wishes to punish someone or simply slay a person that will not be able to fight back, she appears in this form and simply kisses the person, which instantly kills the person. If she wishes to confer a boon to a person, she will blow air in this manner into the face of the hero to grant it power. Now, kisses do seem to be a recurring theme with Auril. This comes from the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. Quote, Luskan has a temple dedicated to Auril, the white-spired Winter Palace. The structure is a roofless array of pillars and arches carved of white stone. The rituals of Auril's worship often seem cruel to outsiders. In Luskan, visitors gather at the temple to watch the frequent wet parades, a ritual in which supplicants don garments packed with ice. They then journey between 6 white pillars known as the Kisses of Auril, which are dispersed throughout the city. The worshippers move from pillar to pillar, chanting prayers to the goddess. Upon reaching a pillar, a supplicant must climb it and then kiss the lady, touching lips to a rusty iron plate at the top. In winter, these events resemble frantic foot races, with the added risk of frostbite and injuries caused by falling from the slippery pillars. The parade runners are cheered on by patrons who come out of the nearby taverns to place bets on the stamina of the participants. Those who finish the race are thought to have helped make the winter easier, and they rarely have to pay for food or ale all winter long, end quote. I do want to point out though that her clerics do not kiss other people. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Priests of Auril take a vow of celibacy, so kissing strangers is generally out of the question. If you find clerics of Auril in Icewind Dale, you won't be able to flirt with them, unfortunately. But now, how does she relate to Icewind Dale? So Icewind Dale is a region far to the north, completely separated and walled off by a massive mountain range called the Spine of the World. As you can see from the map, they are basically as far north as you can be in a land that is cold and snowy for the entirety of the year. In this place, winters are brutal, to the point where during winter, you literally cannot travel away from Icewind Dale because the whole passage through the mountain becomes completely blocked off. Because of how brutal winter is in here, many people fear and respect Auril, for she has the power to make the winters tamer or stronger if she so wished. Auril is not the type of god that seeks prayer with a comforting hand. Instead, she threatens for obedience and offerings. If you do not give proper offerings, she will make sure that winter is particularly bad for you and those that you care for. And with this mantra, she has managed to keep a sizable chunk of the inhabitants of Icewind Dale under her control. Many of her priests walk the streets literally threatening people that if they don't offer gold, Auril will personally make their life hell this winter. And the thing is, those threats are actually real. The stories are everywhere of Auril singling out a person and just waiting for them to leave the city in order to torment them with a blizzard and kill them. See, Auril has a lot of vested interest in Icewind Dale and places just like this to venerate her because, frankly, there aren't many places like Icewind Dale in the world. See, out there in the cold, icy front of the north, you mostly find monsters, white dragons, and frost giants. I mean, that's it. None of which are that great as supplicants. Monsters because they're not smart enough to understand the concept of a deity. Dragons because they are secular, so they don't really pray to gods. And giants because they venerate their own giant gods. Some giants do follow Auril, but she can't quite threaten them in the same way as she can humans, so they're not as useful to her. Now, Icewind Dale is special because it is filled with humans who are prone to prayer, unlike the humans who are found in the Great Glacier further to the east, because those humans over there are almost completely secular and will not pay any attention to any deity, so she can't really threaten them. The good folk in Icewind Dale, though, oof, they just get spooked easily by threats and will give her offerings if she threatens enough. Now, many people don't know this, but at the beginning of 5th edition, before 5th edition was actually finished, we had a mini-adventure that was never fully published called The Legacy of the Crystal Shard. The story was meant to be a partial continuation to a couple of the D&D novels, but in the adventure, you travel to Icewind Dale, and in there, you actually do get to interact with Auril quite a bit. This is Hedron Arnsfirth, the Chosen of Auril. So, a Chosen is essentially what it sounds like, a person that was chosen by a god to be almost like a mortal representation of that deity. That person basically becomes a demigod, or at least obtains powers similar to that of a demigod, and then furthers the agenda of that god. Think of being a Chosen like being a level 30 cleric of a particular god. The god sees in you something that they really want, and then boom, you become blessed with a ton of power from that deity. Now, Hedron was a member of the Tribe of the Elk, one of the many groups of nomadic barbarians that live in the area of Icewind Dale. Auril must have seen something in her, for she blessed her and turned her into her Chosen, and further commanded her to punish the good people of Icewind Dale. See, Auril wanted to convert all 10 settlements of the area into her personal dominion, so Hedron Arnsfirth gathered a large army of animals and monsters and started attacking these settlements. Eventually she was killed by adventurers, and we didn't really get to hear more of her. Simply, that was the end of the adventure. However, a small plot twist ensued. In the book Tales of the Yawning Portal, under the adventure Dead in Thay, you actually find out that the body of Hedron somehow survived as an undead wight, and was further taken and imprisoned in the mega dungeon somewhere underneath Thay. In there, they were basically attempting to remove and absorb her divine essence, the chosen magic given to her, and so they kept her prisoner. The thing is, if Dead in Thay as an adventure is canon, then one could surmise that at the end of the adventure she was probably released, or at least her chains would have been destroyed upon the adventurers defeating the bad guy in the dungeon. So it's not impossible that she could return to Icewind Dale as the Chosen of Auril to further complete her mission and take over the 10 settlements. Another thing that you should probably keep in mind too if you decide to walk around in Icewind Dale pissing off this goddess is that she actually has a very strong allegiance to Umberlee. So we talked about it before, how Auril belonged to this group of chaotic gods. In that group you also have Umberlee, Malar, and Talos. Umberlee and Auril get together really well for whatever reason, to the point where out of all of them, Auril feels like she can always call upon Umberlee for help and that she will respond in kind. Further, there are many gifts that Umberlee has given to Auril that relate to the sea, which means it is entirely possible that the Sea of Moving Eyes could be under the control or power of Auril. Now that could come in handy. Now the lore also states that Talos will also heed a request for help, but she seldom asks for it because Talos tends to always get all the glory for whatever he does, leaving none to Auril. Now, Malar and Auril do not get along, like at all. You will never see either of them ever asking for help from the other. Now, in any case, if you ever seek to attack Auril in her own divine kingdom, you should be afraid of Umberlee as well, for she will probably defend her. They're both really good friends, it seems. Now, Auril's realm is currently set in the Deep Wilds, the magical realm of Sylvanus, greater god of nature. She used to reside in a realm called Fury's Heart, which was Talos' domain, but we're not really sure what happened to the relationship between Talos and Auril, or really whatever happened to Talos in general. What we do know is that the realm of Fury's Heart was torn apart during the Spell Plague, and Malar, Umberlee, and Auril all moved over to the Deep Wilds. But we don't actually know where Talos is anymore, since he didn't move to Deep Wilds, and Fury's Heart was allegedly absorbed by Grumsh, greater god of orcs. I read in the forums that some people were saying that in 4th edition they were actually trying to get rid of Talos as a character in an effort to remove the number of gods in the pantheons, and so they made it so that Talos was actually Grumsh in disguise the whole time. If you look at the Forgotten Realms campaign guide for 4th edition, you will literally see that you can't find Talos anywhere on the book, so they really did just delete him. But then when you read 5th edition, you see him there, as if nothing happened. You know, 4th edition is weird. They try to do so many weird things that 5th edition just just got rid of. Point is, we're not really sure if there even is a Gods of Fury anymore, or what is the relationship between Auril and Talos, but hey, maybe we can ask Auril in the next adventure. Regardless, in the Deep Wilds, Auril's castle is called Winter's Hall, and it is a massive floating fortress made out of air and ice. This is from Dungeon Magazine number 367. Quote, like a severe winter storm, Auril's Winter Hall moves slowly across the Deep Wilds, bringing strong winds and heavy blowing snow wherever it passes. Built on wind and ice, the structure seems as if it's carved from a massive iceberg, flipped on its end and thrust hundreds of leagues into the sky. The palace is nearly 5,000 feet in diameter at its base, and an equal number of feet high at its summit, with a labyrinthine maze of corridors, halls, and passages inside it. With nearly 20,000 damned spirits and immortal servitors dwelling within it at any given time, Winter Hall is easily the size of a small city. Immense
The peephole's peeled.
What's the name of that river down there?
Wizard call it the sewer.
Whatever it's called, it's impressive. And it tastes great.
Did you go for a swim earlier?
Nah, don't know how to swim.
Must have been some of it.
titty. These boots have seen everything. Quite exhausted. A good night's sleep would do me wonders.
A rush of ancient whispers fills your mind as you approach the door. It is rife. Old, deathly magic.
A new vessel brimming with blood darkens Baal's door to baptize his deus most holy. Do you have proof of your faith to our Lord? You must bear proof of the Dreadlord's favor, or pay his toll of blood.
The penitent looks at you silently, expectantly. The penitent doesn't respond, holding your gaze almost unblinkingly with his. There is the slightest flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. Penitent blinked. been rifling through the wrong pockets. You sense now would be a good time to clarify if that someone is you. Your honesty.
Very well. I was trying to concentrate.
There's a pickpocket operating nearby. You feel the arrow of suspicion pointing your way. You quickly clear things up. Obviously, you aren't the...
If everyone else minds their business, I'll be fine.
Someone's been rifling through the wrong pockets. You sense now would be a good time to clarify if that someone is you. You'll walk free.
Have a lot on my mind. Well, in it. Don't waste a step.
Place is rigged. Manner of our imminent demise.
Fading fast. Need healing. Concentrate.
Can't slow down. What do I have to lose? Can you feel death's cold? Just like old times.
Dost thou require a new ally? Then thou must return. This is the price of balance. Well, by doom and dusk, I strike thy name from the archives. Rise.
Sing a song of Baldur, who founded Baldur's Gate, empire golden, built on faith, could not avert his fate.
You sleep, but the wicked don't. Someone is here to disturb your rest.
Get the hells away from me!
Peace, brother. We're here to take you home.
The Master needs all 7 of us for the ceremony. Come with us and be reborn. We'll live again.
Game's not over yet. New cards are drawn, new hands are played, newcomers blaze above.
The rite. The Master needs him. He must attend.
Oh, I'm well aware of what the Master needs. But don't we deserve better?
What do you mean, better?
After all these centuries of torment, I know what you all want. More than power. More than to walk in the sun. You want to see him dead. The rite of profane ascension will be mine. And he won't see a scrap of its glory. I am going to complete the ritual as the Ascendant, and then I'm going to kill him! This is your chance. Stand with me. Name me your new master. We will get our revenge. And you will all live again.
His liar's smile spells danger. He knows full well that his kin will die in the ritual, but if any of the bearers of the scar die before the ritual begins, he will lose his chance to perform the rite himself. He needs them to run willingly to their deaths, thinking they stand a chance against their master.
I'm doing what I have to. I can't be what you want to see in me.
Die in the ritual? Whatsoever are you speaking of? We are going to cheat undeath. The Master doesn't need to lie to us. He controls us, fully. Why go through the trouble of giving us hope?
Because it's more cruel. Shit, we're doomed. All right.
The bonds hold. He owns us. We have no choice. We must obey. Get out of here!
Try me.
least you've met my family now. He cannot, thanks to our wriggling friend. He will be furious. And he'll be even more furious when I get to that For what it's worth, thank you.
They'll catch a break.
Keep a blade close.
Let's get going.
I don't know what's happening with that body, but it looks very creative.
This jar, it feels like death itself. A sure sign of...
Don't touch me. Hardly a challenge. Let's hope for gold. He stashed his canopic jar inside a zombie? The clever boy.
already.
Onward in her name.
That might be worth.
What's that?
Let's see. Better get to it.
Never a dull moment. How much farther can I go?
Real Baldur's Gate.
With pleasure.
Looking ahead. Light on the... What's that?
Good. I was just.
That water looks tainted. Better to avoid it.
Left behind while our brothers
already.
He is a berserker. His life has been spent worshipping our Lord, whether he wills it or not.
Well, hello. Stepping softly. Let's have a rummage.
No time to rest. Best be on my way.
Ready?
Just as I was getting bored, our Lord sends us a little diversion.
No choice but to keep going. Best be on my way.
Let's end this. Moving.
Let's turn someone inside out. Let's go.
fall by my hand.
That's macabre. Ready or not?
Never wanted the easy path.
Aren't you a sight for sore eyes?
are traps about. Hmm?
Shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times.
What's that?
Have to keep going. That's curious.
Flowers are so overrated. They're bright, gaudy, and almost never make good poison. Each their own, I suppose.
But if we'd only
Although I
made
am
the
right.
effort, if we'd only pushed through.
I know, love. I think about it too.
Have you never worked for the rich before? For every bite you take, they get a whole evil comes in many forms. This man has tried to divide us with... It's not a lie. If you would just listen, I could explain. You have done quite enough explaining, Volothamp Gadam. You have poisoned the very hearts and minds of these good, kind, gentle citizens with your lies, your delusions, your conspiracies. Though you hide behind a mask of stories, we have seen beyond the veil. We see what you really are. Fearmonger. Hear, hear! Attention seeker. Hear, hear! Agent of chaos.
Your parasite stirs in recognition. This man is infected.
Ragnahells follow! Today, citizens, we rid ourselves of this cankerous sore. Today, we burn away all falsehoods. Today, we will be divided no longer, for today, we rise in truth. Psst. Don't just stand there. Help me, goddammit! Help me!
I suppose we should aid him. Though I'd hate to miss the show.
The newcomer speaks, and speaks of evidence, and trials, and justice. And in so doing, they delay their own salvation. Dear citizen, dear friend, rest assured you will have your justice. But I'm afraid the time for trials has passed. Now is the time for judgment! fascinating. If it were happening to somebody else!
Let's get this over with. Swift as my feet can carry me.
Take your
Now they see me.
Shouldn't have made me your enemy.
Not everyone subscribes to what is mine is.
With haste.
Captain, we have 2 children. You can't make us split up the family. The crew and I are risking our lives. We're not doing this for charity.
Honey, you go with the girls. I'll find another way to water you.
What? No.
What's next?
We can't go without you.
It's the only solution. Trust me. I'll catch up to you.
I've got a long road ahead.
All right, Captain. You'll have to watch them all. Just these 3 married never.
Something's going on there. That's my letter.
We have 2 children. You can't make us split up the family. The crew and I are risking our lives. We're not doing this for charity.
Honey, you go with the girls. I'll find another way to water you.
No. We can't go without you.
Trust me. I'll catch up to you.
You better catch up to us.
All right, Captain. Very. Just these 3 then.
I'm telling you, there's something off for that.
Too right. I'll go.
Enough sitting around. Let's go hurt someone.
In cash, no notes.
Sold. A pleasure to visit.
If not over, then through.
Slipping through the absolute blockade is risky business. Everybody pays.
You'll have to watch them all.
We have 2
Married
children.
never.
Watch your
Can't
back.
make us split up the family.
Quiet.
The crew and I are risking our lives. We're not doing this for charity.
Honey, you go with the girls. I'll find another way to water this.
What? No. We can't go without you.
It's the only solution. Trust me. I'll catch up to you.
You better. You better get.
All right, Captain.
Being a arrested for theft. If you have a defense, make it now. You've convinced them.
What to do?
Can't afford to stay idle.
Let me work my magic. Can't give up now. Wonder if the gods are watching me.
What I'd give for the needed
People down there on the docks going about their business.
We'll get to them soon enough.
Look around you. It's peaceful, isn't it?
The Society of Brilliance has quite the reputation. Even Waterdanian academics refer to their work.
Breeze must be blowing
They talk a great deal, but
bringing in the
do
stench
very
of the
little,
foundry.
which may be for the best.
I take it you're not inclined to study the wonders of the Underdark?
Its inhabitants and cultures, maybe. Its fungi and cave slime. No, thank you.
Something over there.
My friend dared me to come here alone for a couple of mugs of ale. So here I am. Ha! Come off it, mate. Who would want me dead? Look, mate.
I'm ready. Whatever it takes.
Just one more drink. My friend dared me. Ha! Come off it, mate. Who would want me dead? Look, mate.
Someone there? All right.
My friend. Ha! Come off it, mate. Who would want me dead? Oh, shit.
Is that blood? No, never mind. Time to press ahead.
Still remember our first date in this park,
Absolute this end of the world that. These young folks have no idea how good they've got it.
Come off it, Vistra. You've been doing the same rent.
I get the joke like one gets dysentery. Hey, get back on there.
So you stopped queuing because you felt funny?
You appear to be lost, dear. I specialize in fashion, not potato sacks. Well, a certain level of class is expected by my clientele. So if you wish to stay, I said the best you'll find in Baldur's Gate. Certainly better. If looks could kill, Lord Gortash would have already hanged me. I wouldn't worry too much. This is undoubtedly some rumor cooked up by my many rivals. Well, Carmen can barely organize.
Not slogan.
Make haste! I have a very busy day of very demanding clientele ahead. Very good. Now remember,
Wits and blades, always sharp. I'll go this way.
you appear to be lost, dear. I specialize in fashion, not... Well, a certain level of class is expected by my clientele. So if you wish to stay, the best you'll find in Baldur's Gate. Certainly better. Very... Now remember, fashion's a fickle...
Still breathing, despite everything. Should mind my step.
Stories, get them right here. You've had yours, say now clearer. The printing block has never been so hot. Why are you here anyway?
I am a gentleman.
My authorization. Six children, 4 adults. It must be a bit of a squeeze.
We manage. They didn't bring much with them, of course.
It chokes to blow. It's all water. Well, liquid anyway.
Should report this to the Gazette.
Let's get one for the road.
No, you moron! We could be fired for this.
Drinking hole, dear readers. In fact, hole may be the perfect word to describe this tavern.
Careful, I'm bound.
Tricks. Quick and quiet. At least things have stayed interesting.
Yes, we do go down in history if your citizens die of thirst.
Can't slow down. Something over there.
dangerous than I thought.
What now? Dribble's foot. Oh, and it smells even worse than it looks. Oh. Traps. How considerate. Very well, then. How delicious.
The corpse remains silent.
But you do go down in history if your citizens die of thirst. Boo! That's just dinner than dessert. What if it was
Just
chocolate cake?
one go, please.
Those charms all sound my price range.
Why'd you make it so big then? Comes to magical protection, I'd really spare no expense.
Need something for defense? Or maybe offense? Either way, I've got what you need.
I wear as a
Fine. Don't be shy. This armor can't keep you alive if it's sitting here with me. City's got...
Down, Biter. You're louder than the fireworks.
Stories! Stories! Get them right here! The printing block has never been so hot!
Still alive.
Scandal!
So that's progress.
Scandal! Where to buy sandals?
Need to find a way forward.
Don't spend your gold in there, mate. Bastard wizard don't deserve it.
Welcome, dear patron, to Sorceress Sundries. It has come to my attention that there is a bitter adventurer located outside the shop. Not to worry. We will quickly handle this disturbance for your comfort and safety. I am an unperson in service of the revered wizard Leroican, proprietor of this fine establishment. To browse our... If you are a city official here to collect dues, say taxes. For all other inquiries, say other. To learn more about the search for the Night Song, say Night Song. To learn more about Master Leroican, to truly know he resides...
The great and powerful Leroican offering our humble group an audience. We are honored.
So
one for customer service.
You make fine points. Very efficient you'd be.
Welcome back to the provision of information that leads to the retrieval of the Night Song is worth a great deal to Master Leroican. Do you have information regarding the Knights? Please proceed upstairs. Thank you.
Well, at least they seem to use the... everything.
I saw somebody go up to Leroy.
Welcome, dear patron, to the floor at the top of the stairs. If you have information about the Night Song, great riches await. Let your knowledge
Hasn't gotten into it. That's not funny.
I think it's very...
Impropriety deletable, but that mad cunt on our doorstep.
And I'm wrong.
The Night Song is an ancient.
That way.
It's all here from the Baldur mountain.
Don't spend your gold in there, mate. Bastard wizard don't deserve it.
Breathe deep and move.
I just think we should get a festival like a man. Or hideaway like...
welcome. It is I am to if you are a city official here, the provision of information that leads to please thank.
It's not as if your professor bear just shouts at you.
I shouldn't have to wait until I've got nothing left.
Well, if you have, let your not.
Not a dicky bird.
I just think we should get a festival like a man. Or hideaway like a man.
Welcome to if you are a city official here, the provision of information that lead please welcome, dear. If let your knowledge.
The Night Song is a priceless ruby from a realm beyond our own. The Night Song is an immortal being, the child of a deity. The Night Song is an immortal being, the child of a deity.
Hold very still, Nicklaw. Crank's aim is much improved, but still leaves something up to chance.
Yes, sir.
All right, Crank. Ready? Aim. We have a visitor. At ease. Nicklaw, you may go. I see no night song. Surely you wouldn't have entered my tower without the night song in hand, hmm? Surely my worthless apprentice wouldn't have allowed you to waste my time. Fascinating. You've been to Shah's temple, haven't you? To the Shadowfell? And the night song? Speak true now, for I detest a liar.
You'd give up her location just like that? You're not actually considering betraying her, are you?
She deserves better than to fall into his clutches. I owe her.
Good. Then you'll have no trouble fulfilling the contract to bring the night song here. I'm growing tired of this repartee, my friend. Beautiful, isn't it? Worth more than your life, too. I bought it from a Kalashite warlock. There's very little of his soul left to him. It can bind a celestial to the wearer's service with a snap of the fingers. And this can keep her in place. Forever. It didn't work out for poor Ketherick, did it? He was a fool. A desperate mercenary who poured out his soul to whichever god flattered him. I serve no god, but that which stares back at me in the mirror. The night song will be put to a grand purpose, equalizing man and god. Whoever helps me attain that which I seek will be greatly rewarded. I intend to achieve greatness. And I intend to do it for a long, long, long time. I can see you're in no place to have a civilized conversation. let your knowledge deter.
Mother's milk, your visage speaks of ill tidings. Speak, ally mine. What troubles you? Is he indeed? Pray tell, what does he seek from Dame Aelin? Magicians and their machinations. I have had enough for an eternity. I will wring his neck until he's dead. Oh, his end will be one more strand in the great highway to this Leroican right away. I am as eager to meet him as he is to What have we here? A magician in a tower, hiding away from the frightening world. What are you so scared of, Magus? Not the night song, surely? Why, she's nothing but a relic, to be purchased and pursued.
At last. There you are, my dear.
You will address me with due deference. I am Dame Aelin, and you are a whelp without honor, without pride, with nothing but a tower full of trinkets.
Oh, my apologies, Dame Aelin. I meant no disrespect. I asked our mutual friend here to make an introduction. Forgive me for that impudence. Perhaps our friend can bridge the gap and do what I believe they came here to do?
My steel-hearted friend speaks true. Give me one good reason, Magus, why I should not strike you down.
Dame Aelin, I have discovered a device that would allow your immortality to be shared. It would cause you no harm, no pain of any kind. You serve your mother Seluna, I believe. She who has blessed our realm with so many gifts. Honor her by sharing yours.
You dare to threaten me with the same magic that held me in torment for 100 years? You do not seek to share my gifts. You seek to poach them.
I had hoped to appeal to your better nature. Perhaps I overestimated you. No bother. I have an arsenal of implements capable of convincing you to see reason. A Pity you didn't prove a more reliable ally. You could have reaped the rewards. I'd hoped you to keep an open mind, but it's... I have great plans for you, Dame Aelin. And if you will not go quietly, then you'll go kicking...
Magicians and their plans for day.
Myrmidons! Imperatum!
I will wring his neck until he's dead. Highway to...
What path lies before me?
I spy a wizard foul! What have we... What are you... You will...
Oh, my... Forgive me for that impudent...
My steer...
You so... I had hoped...
take you.
I've missed this. A better position. A subtle approach. Certainly.
No one's stopped me yet.
Leroican. You who would see me caged. You who would purchase my submission with profane gold. Let every wicked magus, every vile murtherer, each slaver and misery merchant see. Dame Aelin is watching. She is indomitable. And when her face lights the shadows of your wrongdoing, you are broken by its beauty.
I can keep going a little longer now.
The Firehead Fool is dead. Yet as I stare upon his corpse, I feel sadness. Why? A gripping in the chest. As though I'd lost some... paladin's fatigue, no doubt. You were excellent in battle, as is your way. And I will catch my breath, then to camp I will bring my bones. Moon Maiden be with you.
Moving in.
Apparently.
Loitering's what you were doing. Loitering with intent. I should have waited.
Loitering? Not much left. That's just how I look.
I see it, sweetie.
We're doing anything.
Stand up.
We're just
You're
waiting for a
slouching.
Were you doing nothing, or were you waiting for a friend? Which is it?
It's not as if
Calm down, Baldur. You're louder than the fireworks.
I shouldn't have to wait until I've got nothing left. I need to be prepared.
The printing block has never been paused.
Geez, wine festivals, wasting our resources.
I can't help but notice you're drinking anyway, Dave.
If the wine's here already, I might as well drink it.
Now, Flavor, I'm just saying, white wine is better.
Maybe for Claire. Best not tell them I prefer a pink.
At least white wine doesn't stain tongues and teeth.
No, they stain their drinker's reputation instead.
Are you enjoying the festival so far?
Oh, yes. It's so lovely.
Well, I'm glad. It really wasn't easy to set it all up myself.
Yes, you've made that very clear.
Why, hello there.
Oh, they do look ever so tasty.
Call me Cord.
The wine scent is almost sickly sweet, with an acrid note just on the periphery. Poison.
No, it was perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. You have sullied it with knowledge, made it an unclean sacrifice. I will remember your fate, and I will.
shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times. Can't slow down.
Goodness, I just hope that... I still can't believe...
Enough to make the guests forget how dangerous Baldur's Gate is. So, lots.
Speaks well, that envoy, Wultash. Excellent rhetoric.
He's a man of the people.
Afternoon.
Promised at least 100 more watches before the year.
Oi! We got rats in cellar. We also got cats. But no, I need them rats. Here's the deal. I'll keep a lookout for murderers. No time for playing with cats.
I don't like giving you a piece of the cake.
Say, I guess. You kill the rats, yes? Rats, murderers. Always do not worry. Chef Rev.
We are all going to die.
We know.
Raise our city.
Hold off to the flaming fist.
Stand with you. Our lives are yours, and our enemies.
Once the Watchers see off the castle.
What do I think of Lord Wultash's still watch? I am
I still can't be... I still... I still can't believe... Why?
Staying informed, see.
Will you please keep your eyes on me?
Hello. Nice day for a walk.
Not drunk enough to listen to your prowl.
Can't bloody believe it. No more puzzles. A travesty.
Gazette has a transcript of a conversation with Archduke Gortash.
What's he got to say for himself?
Lots of talk about the brilliant
Berg. Didn't stop them
Did
running.
with Bedford.
Tamlin worked harder than they did.
I agree.
If you are the practical sort, I also stock enchanted stones. They're almost as magical as myself. Remember,
No lower city house can compare to a mansion next to the hive. Still, citizen, initiating scan juncture.
A customer. Come, Docker. You look like someone who knows their way around a loot. Or perhaps you enjoy... Thank you for...
Can't you feel it?
Feel what exactly?
That weird something.
It's unusual for prey to supply the tools of its own butchery. Razors, scissors, nail files. So many cuts one couldn't make. And yet, such a fleeting window. But then, who am I to deny the auspices of destiny? For we are celebrating, Master Figaro. You have the delicious honor of being my crowning achievement. Your body. Together, we shall transcend. A challenger. This pity is awful. Will be your... You'll savor your final breath. Before becoming...
run a business, I say. Can't even browse while he's through the river. Maybe. I don't know how closely they were. But there's
Time to press ahead.
Into the shadows.
no way to run a business. Can't even browse while he's with a client.
A fine opportunity.
What do you mean? What else is down there?
Magic? I'm just saying, maybe there's a reason for that.
No way to run a business, I say. Can't even browse while he's with a client.
Believe me then.
Stranger things have happened in Baldur's Gate is all I'm saying.
Think I made the right decision.
Think you can take me on?
No way to run a business, I say. Can't even browse.
Still breathing, despite everything.
I can keep going a little longer now.
Have to keep going.
I must say, I'm damn lucky you showed up when you did. Can you believe what that monster was doing? Truly, I'll confess, it terrified me greatly. Can you imagine dressing entirely in red? Jests aside, thank you. You forever have my humblest gratitude and a most generous discount on my wares. In the face of such horror, I don't see that I have much a certain ineffable quality. Very good. remember.
I should have known. If it had been the dwarf alone, we might have stood a chance. But these doppelgangers... We were paralyzed before we even had the chance to fight back. I was heading that way after we last spoke, when I heard a commotion. I stepped in to see what was... It's not every day you have the chance to catch a killer in action. Not even in this profession. These killings aren't random. In fact, that document you showed me before, the one with the victims' names on it, that was the briefing. The killers paralyze their victims, take their hands as an offering for Baal, and make it look like the cult of the Absolute was behind it all. It grants them access to a tribunal. From what I could gather, it's some sort of rite of initiation, and it's taking place beneath Candlehallows tombstones. Like I said before, it's not something I can look into in an official capacity. But you... Technically, I haven't yet done an inventory of this crime scene. So if, something were to go missing from a corpse... When I'm done, I'll stop by...
Didn't like the roughs on the new Facemaker fashion line? Who can say?
Right. Safest place in the city, too.
It was so clever of your grandparents to build that.
A passphrase, Sicarius, and a location. We should find this Candlehallow place.
You know, I heard it was the Balist that tried to kill Master Figaro. Feel what exactly? Why would a Balist want Master Figaro dead?
That